decide, is this a type 1 or type 2 decision? Okay, and what do we mean? Well, one type is basically where it is totally reversible. Okay, so for example, let's say I'm gonna book a flight which has free cancellation. Okay, so I could book this flight for 4 months time and I could cancel at any time. I could reverse the decision. It's very simple to reverse that decision, right? Of course, on the day of the flight, it gets very difficult, but in the next few months, I'm not going to have to worry too much about it because we can change that decision. Okay, but at the same time, if I'm going to buy a non-refundable ticket, right, what that means is that I will only have to travel or I will waste the money. So that decision is different. The first decision, if it's a kind of decision where you can reverse it, that becomes a decision that you can take easily and quickly. You still want to think about it, but you can take that decision quite easy and quite quickly. The one that's irreversible, you need to think a bit deeper about that. And when we're making decisions, one of the things I would do is I would think about the objective. What's the objective of what I'm trying to achieve? For this decision, what's the most important thing? Right? So for example, let's say I'm going to go on a trip. Let's say I'm going to Umrah, for example, and I want to take my parents with me, right? So I might have certain dates I want to go on, but then my parents might not be able to go on those dates. So now it's like decision. Do I change the Umrah dates? Do I leave my parents behind? Well, then it becomes like, what's my biggest, most important objective? Well, my objective is to be at home on this date. So if the date is the most important objective, then in that case, I have to stick with the dates and my parents can't come. Or if my objective is I must go on Umrah with my parents, then it's like, okay, I'm going to change the dates. So when you're making decisions, I think it's important to think about the objective. At the same time, I would advise that you think about perspectives. So when you're thinking about the objective and you're saying, right, this is my objective, you should think, okay, what do I think I should do? What do I want to do? And then I would think about other people's perspectives. I would say, like, my brother, he's very different to me. If he was in this situation, what would he say about this? What kind of decision would he come to and why? Right? What would Allah want me to do in this situation? What would my friends advise me in this situation? And get different perspectives, and from there you're like, okay, cool, so that's some of the things that I could do. The other thing you can do is really get advice from people, right? So you go, you look at you speak to people that you trust and you get advice from them. I'm thinking of doing this, I'm thinking of going here, I'm thinking of doing this, what do you think? And hopefully they will give you a perspective, they will give you an idea of what you can, what you can't do, right? And then after you've kind of got that advice, then you want to come to some sort of a decision. And it might be that you're not 100% sure, but you come to some sort of a decision. And when you come to that decision, then obviously you want to go off and you want to make istikhara. You want to put your trust in Allah for that decision. Even though you know I'm going to go and do this, you still go and put your trust in Allah, you ask Allah's help, and you go with that. Now, once that's done, one of the things I would do is that once I've decided that I'm going to go down a certain route, I would start to look at, I'm going to go down this route, what are the benefits of doing this thing? And then I would find a way to magnify the benefits. I'm like, okay, these are the benefits, how can I make the benefits even bigger? And then I would see what are the negative things about this? What's like the detrimental things about this decision? And then I would try and mitigate the detrimental things. How do I reduce those things, right? How do I account for those things? And once that's done, then in my heart of heart, I'd be like, look, I've done everything possible to make this decision. I've consulted people, I've thought about it, I've thought about the objective, I put my trust in Allah, I've done everything. So now I'm just going to go full force and I'm going to do what I need to do for this thing. And then at that point it becomes that whole thing where the Prophet ﷺ, he had put on his armor and they were saying, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't fight, maybe we shouldn't go, this, that. And the Prophet ﷺ said, no, like when the armor is on, that's it, it's time to go now, right? There's no going back and forth and double thinking and all of that stuff. Once the armor's on, you go. So in the same way, once the decision is made, then you should be fully committed to it. And you should know that this is a decision that you put forward to Allah, and this is the way that you're going to go now. So you should go full force. Now it is possible that you try and do everything you possibly can, and it goes wrong and it goes out your hand and it doesn't happen. So for example, let's say I decide to go Umrah inshallah, and then I do everything. I get my flights, I get my tickets, I get this, I get that, and then Qadr Allah, on the day something happens and I just can't go Umrah, right? That means that you didn't go Umrah, even though you decided to go Umrah. So you might get confused and say, hold on, I did this, I did this, I did that. Yes, that's true, but fundamentally, it just didn't happen. This is a Qadr Allah, it took over, no problem at all. But I would say the most important thing to remember is that if you make a decision properly and you've thought it through, then you must stick with that decision.